happens then is that usually, for the purposes of laundering money or corruption, people will, for example, use their relatives to open an account, right? But when you go to the bank, I've heard people complain that, oh, it's a bank, it's a bank. But when they go to the bank to open the account, they also will make the original ultimate beneficiary a signatory to the account. So you go to the mandate on the account and it tells you that even though this is my account, so and so can sign a loan to withdraw money from this account. Or he will be the only person to sign to withdraw money from the account. Or each time a check is issued, it should be co-signed by me, myself, and that person. Or I can sign a loan, that person can sign a loan. So usually, and it happens a lot in the companies as well. So what is going to happen? What happens in the case of the real estate, for example, will be that a company will be set up in the name of an existing person, okay? But when you get to the bank, the mandate is different. So for the purposes of education, the mandate on the account is the document from the owner of the account or from the owners of the account that tells them who can sign to withdraw money or run the account. So in the case, for example, of a real estate company, what could be the case is that the company could have been opened in the name of an existing person, but when you go to the bank, the mandate will show that these and these and these people are signatories to this account. They can withdraw money without the other party, or only this person can withdraw money. So what will then happen is that even if the person is dead, because the mandate is that this person is the only one, or this person can sign a check and withdraw money on their own, the person could still go to the bank and withdraw money. So they hide the properties in the names of these people, but at the mandate level, which is where it really matters, they have their names there, and they are able to do transfers of this nature.
Oh, okay. So possibly you're saying this is not what has happened in this case, but from your experience, this is how these things are done, because it sounds like dead people sending people money. That has never happened.
Yes, I mean, we all know that it is impossible for a dead person to transfer money unless he wrote the check 2 years ahead of time, in which case he knew that he was going to die. He wrote a check of 10,000 Ghana cedis and 11,000 Ghana cedis. But from my experience, this is what happens. So the person is actually not the ultimate beneficiary of the resource of the funds in the account. They are just a front or a facade for the owner to be able to draw the money without attracting attention. Because you see, when you're a politician and you open an account or you do financial transactions, under the law in Ghana, there's what they call the politically exposed persons report. Every year, the banks are supposed to file this report on your account to the Financial Intelligence Center. So if you open an account and you name yourself, you're going to go through all these, and they all have to be reporting. But there's also another law, which is the suspicious transactions report. So, for example, if even the person opened the account in their names, but yet has a politician at the back as a signatory to the one running the account, what would then happen is that the banks are obliged to file the suspicious transactions report on the account. But these are tricks that not just politicians, but criminals use to launder money from the proceeds of crime. So I get the point. You remember that when this issue came, I told you that civilians always think they've committed a perfect crime until somebody begins to unravel it. And the more you say that this money came from here, the more you widen the net of the investigation. I think I remember we discussed that. So for me, it is not just enough to say, oh, the money came from my late uncle or my late brother. Whatever it is, it will be figured out. You heard that the wife of the deceased person, I think, began processes to get the account. And all of a sudden now, money is moving out of it. I don't know whether that case was eventually filed, but if it was filed, then it will be surprising that while the case is pending on the account, monies are still being moved. But this is how it happens. It means that the person who moved the money is a signatory to the account on the mandate. This is not something you will find anywhere but the bank. So whoever moved that money is listed on the mandate. And I think that that should be figured out pretty simply. But this is how it happens, yeah.
So it shouldn't be difficult for the special prosecutor to get to the root of how this happened.
Because, as for the bank, it will be difficult for the OSP to get it unless they get a court order. But you don't need a court order so long as he has a mandate to intercept or the mandate of seizure of this woman's account. When she looks at the transfer, the receipt, she will know who did the transfer into the person's account. So if Mr. So-and-so transferred money to your account, it will show there. So I can tell you that the OSP already has an idea who did that transfer. And all this talk about a dead man transferring money is just being sarcastic. But I think he has a fair idea. But this is how these proceeds of crime are usually laundered, in the name of third parties. That's why you remember in the case of Nigeria, when it was so widespread, what they did was they decided now to link all bank accounts to a biometric verification. So if that happens, you go to the bank and you need a biometric verification. So if you're a party to an account, you will have to go and biometrically verify. And the moment you put your fingerprint, it will show, oh, this person and this person are all signatories to this account. And you could not operate an account without being noticed anymore.
So what about the issue with the real estate, where it starts from someone else's name, then ends up in her account when the purchase was done and monies were being transferred?
It's a classic case. So like I was explaining to you, it is because of all of these kinds of things that even at the Registrar General, when you register a company now, there's what they require to be the ultimate beneficiary. Because people now are able to establish companies in other people's names, but then by law, the ultimate beneficiary is supposed to be declared. So what happens in the case of the real estate is that, for example, you set up a company. Let's say I set up a company in your name, a real estate company in your name. Okay, you are just a front. All the resources and real estate, mind you, real estate and restaurant are one of the best ways to launder money, because you can go and put $100,000 in the account and say it's the sales of proceeds of real estate. Okay, or you could actually use proceeds of crime to do big real estate, because in Ghana the workers and all those people are paid in cash, sometimes on daily basis. So all you need is a sack of money at the side. Every time they close from work, you pay them. That is if you are not using a construction company. So you want to do a real estate company. I set it up in your name. I have cash, which I don't want to be detected within the financial system. So I have cash that I give, let's say you, to go to the site and be paying the workers in cash. So eventually the building is completed. But when the building is completed, let's say that somebody is buying it and is not willing to pay in cash. The person obviously wants to pay the money through a bank transfer, because these days you can't trust people. So they want to do a bank transfer in order to show proof that they paid for the house that we are selling. What then happens is that I open an account. The company will open an account, but because I am the ultimate beneficiary, and I'm afraid that one day you, Sana, will just kick me out and take my money and go away, I will either open an account at a bank that I am comfortable with, and even though you are the official owner or you are the one who will be opening the account, or maybe I'll put like my brother or my cousin on the board to make sure that the mandate that will be running the account will be that you cannot withdraw money without my consent, and you alone cannot sign checks without my consent. But I can sign checks alone, okay? And that information is only available to the bank. So what then happens is that, assuming we sell a house and the money is put into the company's account, I will then order, because I have controlling power in the operation of the account, I will then order the transfer of the money to be moved to my account. In that case, the process of laundering and layering the money has become completed. So this is how it's done. They will do all these eventually to land in my account. You remember, for example, the money was in cash. Maybe it was a bribe to me, or maybe it was from drug dealing. But you can't go and put that kind of money in the account without arousing suspicion. But if that money came from, let's say, Eric, into the company account, Eric is a genuine businessman that genuinely needs a house. So he transfers the money into the company account. That becomes a genuine transaction. So I could have used cash and all those means to build the house and use all those funds to build the house. But the moment Eric pays for the house from genuine financial resources and transfers the money into our account, everything becomes legal. And then now I can then move that money from the company's account into my account, and that also now does not arouse suspicion anymore. That's how most of these things are done.
Well, but you are not a court, so but the question then comes to mind whether those two findings alone, others aside, are convincing enough for perhaps an investigator like you to say, yeah, there's something to look into. We have to probe a bit more.
And I think that even without these two facts, there's always been something to look into. When somebody's stated income is known and the person has certain amount or has a lifestyle that now they call this one lifestyle investigation. So when somebody's stated income is known and his lifestyle exceeds his stated income, it's always a reason to look into it. But in this specific case, I don't know whether the issue of double identity, or because somebody could have, because it is also possible that you remember the case of the Kusi Boateng. Okay, so Kusi Boateng actually is one and the same of the other name that the other aliases that he was using. It could well mean that the name that is there on the company is one and the same as the name Cecilia Dapaah. It's possible. So in that case, that will become some sort of a double identity case. But I don't think is within the purview of the OSP. The OSP, I think, is more focused on the corruption, grand corruption part of public life. And so if that happens, that you remember the last time I told you that usually for investigations like this, it's always smarter to look at the bigger picture and begin to form alliances and sign an MOU with other agencies that may have more powers or more resources or more expertise to look into other aspects of the investigation that you're doing. I think this issue, for example, if what we are being told is the truth, obviously, this is a reason to expand the investigation, which is already existing, especially the link between Cecilia Dapaah and the account of the dead person. What is it there? Who in that account? What is the mandate at the bank? Who transferred that money and why? So that aspect of this finding is obviously within the purview of the OSP. And I think that usually in other jurisdictions, what would have happened is that immediately the OSP publishes its findings or goes to court. The other institutions that feel like they need to take a bite or some of these aspects fall within their purview will automatically pick it up. I don't know about this happening under the current regime, especially looking at the relationship that Cecilia has with the president and the fact that the president himself, the way his demeanor has been on this case hasn't been that encouraging. But I think there's enough reason based on what the OSP or Joy FM is reporting the OSP as having stated in the court case. There's enough reason to even widen the investigation. I think it would be also interesting to know whether the deceased wife, because she was shocked to hear that amount of money. Tana, if you have money in the house, or if you're a wealthy man, one of the first people to know is your wife, okay? If that woman was shocked that her husband had that kind of money and that was able to give that kind of money to her sister or whatever, that should tell you something. So she said, okay, if this money belongs to my ex-husband, then I'm going to take it from you. I remember talking, a lot of the media houses talking to her lawyer, and she said they were going to move ahead with it. And so I feel like this case is unraveling, and I think the special prosecutor appears to be focused on he has his eye on the money, and I think that is important. That's very important. So as for this finding, it is not anything that is beyond finding out. It's very easy. It's just a tactic for drug dealers, for corrupt people that corrupt people use to launder money. And I understand perfectly how these things are done and possibly what is happening under this circumstance.
So as many legs as that of a spider, so many places to go to, so many leads to explore.
Yeah, because that's what this is even a little easier, Sana. You have to wait till you get into the realm where everything now culminates into one account that connects into an offshore account outside, and then now you're talking serious obstacles. Very serious. So, assuming that all of this money move, and then it ends up in one account, and that account is then owned by a company in Mauritius, and Mauritius is an offshore joint. You remember what happened in the case of the contract for the testing of COVID-19 at Ghana's airport. What happened eventually was that company that got the contract is a registered Ghanaian company, all right, but that company is owned by another company And that company is owned by another company based in Dominican Republic. And at Dominican Republic, it turns out that they have what they call the citizenship by investment. So once you pay the government a certain amount of money, you set up your company, they don't really care who owns it. And I found out that by law, the owners of the company are not obliged to disclose the names of the owners. So the lawyer files the registration document as a representative of the owners, and that's what happened in the case of Frontiers. So as we speak, even though we know that that business is connected to the Nigerian billionaire who is facing his own investigation in Nigeria and has rather moved to Ghana and has all these friends at the Flagstaff House, the difficulty you face then is that by law, in most offshore countries, you are not even allowed to reveal the identity at the time of registration. So when you check in Dominican Republic, the owner of the company is not there. It's his lawyer who is registered there. And the lawyer has no obligation to tell you who are the full owners of the company that was doing testing at Ghana's airport. So that's what happens. This, at least, is within one jurisdiction. It's covered under one law, but it's that complex. It's always complex like this in order to get people tired. That web of complexity that if you don't know how to unravel it, at some point you yourself will give up.
Well, I was speaking to a lawyer this morning who says this sounds like, I don't know if you've heard of the Chewa series before.
Chewa, what? Chewa.
Chewa. Okay. This was as a local movie that ran till about lawyer. How many parts? Is it part 10 or part 12?
Oh yeah, I think it was in Chi, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. No, but I think let's not belittle this. This is a lot more serious than Chewa.
Yeah. No, he was saying that it sounds like that, and that he feels that from listening to what has happened so far, special prosecutor going to court, being thrown out by the court, he having to do everything all over again, gives him, and listening to the president, the tone of the letter the president wrote and everything, he feels that this is going nowhere. But so far, how do you feel about this as an investigator? Is he on course?
You remember from the beginning, I told you that they say if you seek justice, you must come with clean hands, right? This is a high-stake investigation. And the biggest mistake an investigator will make is to look at this as business as usual. I think it was somebody that said in Ghana that when you fight corruption in Ghana, corruption fights back. Okay? So I was very clear earlier that when you have a case like this, you need to sit down with your investigators for case management, and that you will need to go through all the laws that you need to investigate this matter. Otherwise, and I said this from day one, otherwise you go all the way to the top and they will tell you that you violated your own law and the case will be thrown out. I said that very early. So the special prosecutor's case was thrown out because from what I understand, he was late for 1 day in filing the case. To extend the seizure of the money that he had taken from Madame Cecilia Dapaah. And so, therefore, that one, you can't blame the judge because the judge also is there to enforce the law. And if you have come to the court to enforce the law, then you must abide by the law. And so, for me, it is just one of the hazards. But an experienced investigator who knows that this is a high-stake investigation would not have waited for this to happen. Okay, would not have waited for this to happen at all. That was a lapse on the part of the special prosecutor. He should have known better that if you leave even 1 second, there are times, occasions when you're even there on the last day, and you have a court register toss you about, and he's like, we have closed, come tomorrow. You go tomorrow and they will tell you that, well, you file the case the day after. So usually things like this, you know that you don't control the world. Therefore, you don't wait till last minute to go and file cases like this. But be that as it may, you remember I told you that if he was dissatisfied with it, he knew exactly what to do. There were other options, and I think he chose another option, not to fight it and go all the way to Supreme Court, but he rather chose to comply with the court order and quickly seize the property again. I was afraid for him when he did that because of the rule of double jeopardy, but that hasn't come yet. Because if you did the wrong thing on the same issue and you were wrong, you can't go back and do the same thing again. In the scheme of things, but I think these are things they will all learn as they go along. That you don't play with sensitive cases. I think we should give the special prosecutor the benefit of the doubt. But I think even more important is the role that people like you are playing, throwing so much sunshine on this investigation and holding both the special prosecutor, the suspect, and the court all accountable to the people, because the only thing that can get this investigation going is the level of sunshine. When you go before the court, you realize what the judges have started saying. I will not be intimidated by public pressure. I will not be intimidated. It's because they are feeling the sunshine on this. Everybody involved in this case is feeling the sunshine that has been thrown on it. And there's pressure on everybody to deliver and deliver properly. And I think that kudos to everybody, but this is how it's supposed to be in a system that works. Eventually, everybody is able to analyze what is going on and have an opinion. The judges are doing things, everybody will have an opinion. The media is scrutinizing it. Even the media themselves are being scrutinized. You remember the letter that came against Joy FM? I told you that the lawyers seem to have misread or misunderstood the reporting. So even the media is also being held accountable, and that's the only way this investigation can get to a conclusion, in my opinion.
Well, let me conclude with you by asking you your views on the ongoing voter registration exercise. What do you think about the modality and the complaints that have been put forward thus far?
Well, Senna, I don't know whether it was on your station or somewhere else. I heard that somebody had traveled 70 kilometers to go and register. And that made me really sad. It really makes me sad. The whole concept of voting, as you know, over the period, citizen participation in elections have been dwindling, much to the discomfort of watchers of our democracy. It always has been the responsibility of the Electoral Commissioner to try as much as possible to bring Ghanaians on board so that as many people as possible participate in this process. And so when you put in these hard times when things are hard for everybody, if you ask a citizen to travel 70 kilometers to go and register, and then on that day your equipment doesn't work and he has to find somewhere to sleep and wait to be registered, those are things that discourages people from participating. And having known that our voter or citizen participation in our elections are dwindling, I would have thought that the Electoral Commissioner would have rather expanded this arrangement to get a lot more people on board. It's just a simple example of you're trying to catch fish, Senna. So if you use a very small net, commonsensically, you're going to catch very small fish. If you widen your net, chances are you will catch more net and much bigger fish. I was just I was just surprised. But you remember I told you that in all of these, especially moving the elections all the way to the district, the biggest casualties will be the NDC, because they are the ones who have most of their voters scattered all over in the hinterland. And therefore, if the election process is not sent there to get them registered, they will suffer the most. But at the end, it's a political party. They should know exactly what to do. They have elected officials who is supposed to make sure that these things are done and that they are not shortchanged ahead of a very crucial election. I hope that they do their work, and I hope that the Electoral Commissioner does his work and ensure that most of the stakeholders are all happy. Because from the beginning, my understanding is that not all were excited about this situation.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Archer, for speaking to us.
Thank you very much, Senator.
Raymond Archer is an international risk analyst, journalist, and investigator. Well, before we move on to anything else, okay. Nancy.
Senator.
First, before I come to you, let me talk about FVV rice. Like we've said here, it's simple and straightforward. We will not drag this with you. We can tell you about the amazing taste, the great aroma, and highly nutritious grains for your consumption, because we can testify to that. It is only Nancy who does not eat FVV rice. In fact, it is not. They say it's your number one local rice. That one there, even the FVV rice, the people at FVV rice have gotten it wrong. It's your number one rice. Pound for pound, anywhere. It's Ghanaian rice. It's the Ghanaian rice for the Ghanaian kitchen. Pound for pound. Put your rice here. Let's put FVV here. If you like, bring your rice to Radio Gold. We have a woman here who can cook well. We'll put it side by side. We'll cook one and cook the other and see if your rice will stand up to FVV rice. It's simple and straightforward. Ubi. But you cannot just sit already and say Ubi.
Oh, be a mutu mammy. No, ye mutu and no say, and your mobile or dear mutu, and say, on him one. Ya true. No say, and mutu only a come up. How dare you rise your mutu and so papa, so come up. I just know. And your dear.
Now, when you but don't also forget that when you buy FVV rice, you're putting money into the pockets of the Ghanaian farmer, because the rice is grown in Veta, Golokwati, Begulu. So that's where they get the rice from before they mill it and then they package it into that very nice product that's called FVV rice. You have to taste it. You have to taste it. And the grains are so well fresh. It's not that 2-year-old rice that they bring here. They are fresh and well matured. You don't have to cook FVV rice with much water. And the best part is FVV rice can stay longer outside your fridge without going bad. So get yourself FVV rice. I'll give you some numbers because I can't tell you. Some of you send me messages. Koforidua, where can I find it? Me myself, Koforidua self. I don't know where Koforidua. I can't. I've been there on some other missions, but Koforidua, I can't tell. Even if you ask me where it is in Sugar Kopa, I can't tell. Even though I come from Sugar Kopa. So what I would